Are the Buccaneers legit contenders to compete for a Super Bowl? That and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome into this WTSP episode of Locked On Bucs, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen or view every day. Don't forget you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can follow along on Twitter. I am James Yarcho at JYarcho_Bucs. He is Evan Klosky at eKlosky WTSP. We are your credentialed members of the media covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Locked On Bucs is here with you 5 days a week along with the everydayers. And for that, I want to share my appreciation for your continued support of the show. One of the ways you could support the show is become a Locked On Bucs insider. You're going to get news, rumors, updates, general thoughts, one-on-one conversations with me via text message. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes to become an insider today. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. First and foremost, I want to send out my apologies. There was no episode yesterday because this stupid, awful snowstorm that rolled through knocked out my internet for most of Monday. So that was a great and wonderful time. And Evan, before we get started, I want to give a special shout out to Locked On Bucs listener Luke Evans. Luke is dealing with some health issues. He's a big fan of the show. Just wanted to say hi to him, send out well wishes, and hoping everything is going well with him. So Luke, thank you so much, and hope all is well. But Evan, the season is over. The playoffs are about to begin. The old adage, just make it into the playoffs and then anything can happen, is going to get thrown around all over the place. This Bucs team, I think, is going to be a tough matchup for some teams in the postseason, but I'm curious to know what your thoughts are heading into the wild card round. You know, this is a Bucs team that beat the Lions in Detroit. They beat the Eagles. They beat the Commanders. They beat the Chargers in LA. They've gone toe-to-toe with other playoff teams, and more often than not, they've come out on top. You 4-3 against teams that are in the postseason this year during the regular season for the Bucs, but they also lost to the Falcons twice. They lost to the Niners. They lost to the Cowboys, teams that they probably should have beaten. So why do you think the Bucs can be the ones holding the Lombardi trophy when all is said and done?
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers and that offense is scary. They're the only team in the NFL that ranks top 5 in rushing yards and passing yards average for both of them. Only team top 5 in both categories. So they are extremely balanced offensively. They are extremely explosive offensively. And a lot of the NFC teams, not all, but a lot, are not these defensive powerhouses. So if the Buccaneers are going to make a run, which they can do, they are going to have to lean on their offense. But defensively speaking, we do expect Antoine Winfield Jr. to be back. We hope Jamel Dean will be back. But this has been a defensive unit that, going back to the bye week, so week 11, they've given up a total of 26 points in the second half. And I know it doesn't look pretty out of the gates. It's a pretty weird dichotomy of how bad they are in the first half and how good they are in the second half. But there is something to that. Todd is great with adjustments. He's a Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator. He has a lot of success in this league. He understands what teams are doing to him and is able to figure it out on the fly for the most part. And they've changed their defensive structure in the back half of the year. And while things aren't perfect, things are better. And if they can hold opponents to 20-ish, they should win most of those games. So if we're talking about purely how does this team make it to the Super Bowl, they got the goods. from both sides. It's just a matter of, can they execute well enough? Can the defense play well enough to allow the offense to do what it's got to do? And, the Buccaneers, and by the way, going back to the game against the Saints, the only 3 points that the defense gave up in the second half was because of a Baker Mayfield interception. So not even really their fault. And as bad as we feel like the Bucs played against the Saints, right, or maybe as sleepy as we thought they played against the Saints, they still totaled 400 yards of offense. They still tallied 27 points on the scoreboard. They still got it done. It came down to like penalties. It was just a really, that will shoot any team in the foot. So, and they're going up against an officiating crew that calls a lot of penalties on Sunday. So they have to be on their P's and Q's. If they can do that, not shoot yourself in the foot, not turn the ball over, run and pass with great equilibrium and continue the explosive plays, protect the second half of the game defensively. You got a Super Bowl caliber team right there.
Well, on the flip side, and we can go all the way back to probably August, maybe even July with some of these crossover episodes when you have said repeatedly, this team is built for a true Super Bowl run in 2025. I agree with you. I think some of the changes that they can make, some of the, positions of weakness that they can address in the offseason makes them a really dangerous team for 2025. But, you just laid out why they can win it right now. They can win it for, in the 2024 season. But what is it about this team that makes you say that right there? That's why they're not going to win a Super Bowl.
Well, first off, I know a lot of people are saying what you just said earlier, right? They beat the Commanders, they beat the Eagles, they beat the Lions. Context matters. Week 1 against the Commanders, Jaden Daniels' first ever start. The guy that they saw week 1 is not going to be the guy that enters Ray J this time around. Week 2 against the Lions, while very impressive, just beating them, period, is hard to do, and I'm not taking anything away from that. They also, on paper, were not the better team that day. The Lions racked up a ton of yards, and the Bucs, I think, went 1 of 7 in the red zone defensively against the Lions. Or technically, the Lions went 1 of 7 against the Bucs in the red zone. It was a Herculean red zone performance from the team. And, if Dan Campbell doesn't keep gambling, Lions probably win that game. And then the Eagles didn't have Devonta Smith, didn't have A.J. Brown, didn't have Lane Johnson. They were a shell of themselves in that contest. So Jalen Hurts was really left, out for stranded before a bye week. So that's just one thing I want to mention. Their primetime prowess isn't great. They have not, in 50-50 coin flip games, they've been on the wrong end of many of them. Not all, but many. And defensively speaking, if the blitz does not get home, they are in deep, deep trouble. And Todd has schemed up some things where ultimately it looks like one thing, but then turns into a 4-man rush. If the 4-man rush does not get home, the Bucs are in trouble. And they still don't have that alpha on the edge to really scare opposing teams. I love Yaya Diaby. I do. I think on a Super Bowl winning team, I think Yaya is a 2. I just do. And, Cansey and Vea are amazing in the defensive trenches. I get all that, but they probably need a little bit more punch on the outside. So that's a concern. The safety position is a concern. Antoine Winfield Jr. has missed most of this season. He's coming back from a knee injury. Who knows how effective he's going to be returning? But even on top of that, you're relying on Mike Edwards, who we all like, but also was somebody who traveled around a couple of teams before landing back here. Ryan Neal was promoted to the 53-man roster. Linebacker position still an up and down thing. I don't know if they've completely covered their bases there, even though the middle of the field has been a little bit better. But you saw the Saints. What did they do in the first half? Let's target the linebackers. Let's target Josh Hayes. It was very simple. And they picked up a ton of yards because the Bucs just love bleeding yards and playing that soft coverage. So that's a concern. And then on the flip side, offensively speaking, does Baker get in one of those modes where he's turned the ball over consistently? That's been the issue. The offense can, as long as they don't shoot themselves in the foot, they're going to do a lot of good things, but they consistently shoot themselves in the foot game in, game out, and it pops up in the weirdest ways, right? They're playing great. Then all of a sudden they implode for 3 drives and then it's great again. Do they have the implosion? That's what I worry about with the offense, is that things are great and then back-to-back drives, turnover, and boom, all of a sudden you're chasing a game now where you're a team that needs to probably lean on the run to find the winning formula. So you think back to some of those losses, and that's really what it's come down to. The Cowboys game, costly turnovers. Trying to think of some other ones. Even in the Saints game, when they blew them out, they blew up in the second quarter. They had a stint there where the second quarters were terrible. So you just want to see them, the Ravens game, Baker Mayfield blew up, right? You just want to see them not shoot themselves in the foot.
All right, well, the Buccaneers start their postseason the same way they started their regular season, and that is hosting the Washington Commanders. We talk about that next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. And they have so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown and how many points each team will score. You can do player props for yards, receptions, touchdowns. More than that, you can place bets on team points for a game, a half, or even a quarter. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 3-point home favorites against the Washington Commanders with an over-under of 50.5 and are currently sitting at plus 2,200, tied with the Packers and just behind the Minnesota Vikings in the Super Bowl odds, while the Detroit Lions are the new favorites at plus 320. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you again for making Locked On Bucs your first listen review every day. The new Locked On NFL is here, and it's 2 shows every day. You got the Madman Tyler Rowland kicking off your morning. Then you can stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. You add in the Locked On local experts, and you get unprecedented NFL insight, hot opinions, detailed breakdowns, all in 30 minutes. It's a new Locked On NFL, and it's twice a day. Make it your second listen at the new Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Evan, the Buccaneers are opening the postseason by hosting the Washington Commanders, which is exactly how they started this regular season. And you said on Twitter, after the matchup was finalized, time is indeed a flat circle. And I don't think this is a game that's going to look anything like that week 1 game. The Commanders are very different than they were back, in September. Jaden Daniels is going to be the offensive rookie of the year. He's going to the Pro Bowl over Baker Mayfield. Terry McLaurin has come on as one of the top receivers in the NFL. Once he and Jaden Daniels started to get on the same page, only 2 receptions for Terry McLaurin in that first game. That is not something that's going to happen again. The Bucs are not running away with this one 37-20 the way that they did 18 weeks ago. So how do they get a win over the Commanders and move on to the divisional round for the second straight season?
Well, the first and foremost, it's containing Jaden Daniels, right? Forcing him to be a passer more than a runner. You think back to that game against the Falcons where he ran, 16 times for 124 yards, whatever it was. You have to stay disciplined in your rushing lane. So, that's a tough balance because you want to send a lot of pressure to Jaden Daniels. That's what Todd Bowles did the first time around. Jaden Daniels will eat a lot of sacks. So you want to do those things, but if you get outside or if you try to do too much or you get wide-eyed, he's going to just run for 30 yards on you. So you have to stay disciplined in this attack, this defensive mindset to keep him in the pocket, and be opportunistic when you have those chances to get him on the ground. So first and foremost, make Jaden Daniels beat you. Make Jaden Daniels throw it over your head. I know that's scary considering what the Bucs have at safety. If Jamel Dean doesn't play, what that could look like. But that Cliff Kingsbury offense is very, get the ball out, short A dot, or low A dot. You gotta try to make Jaden Daniels decipher the defense and think in the pocket versus just, if the Commanders play this hurry up offense and the Bucs are going to play soft at cornerback and have their guys back, Jaden's going to just dink and doink them down the field, easy peasy. And I'm not saying at certain points you can't lean into that, maybe in a 2-minute drill sort of situation where you don't want to give up 7 and you rather give up 3. All right. But you got to challenge him to actually make big time throws. And Jaden Daniels is certainly capable of doing that. But if I had to choose between one or the other, I'd rather him beat me with his arm than his legs. So that's something that I think is critical. And from an offensive perspective, run the ball. Run the stinking ball. Liam gets a little pass happy sometimes. And, I know last game was weird because they kept taking penalties, which put them out of a certain down and distance to run the ball. But still after the first 2 drives against the Saints team, that was one of the worst against defending the runs. And I know they did a decent job against Bucky Irving on Sunday. It was like 9 passes to 2 runs. You gotta lean into Bucky. If there is a huge weakness that the Commanders have, it's that rushing defense. They are soft there. You can bully them in the trenches and get what you want. And we saw, I believe the first time around, Bucky broke a huge run against them. You got to remember also, when the Commanders played the Bucs, the Buccaneers were still doing more zone runs. And then we learned, they sprinkled in some gap scheme runs, and those were the ones that popped against the Commanders. So this time around, it's going to be a lot more gap scheme. And I remember also Chris Godwin had a huge screenplay that broke out for a big game. The Commanders' defense is not perfect here. They got some holes. So for an explosive offense to go up against the Commanders' defense like this, I think the offense can do some things. It's going to be, you're going to have to get a feel for the game. And if the Buccaneers offense can get out to a certain lead, then Todd Bowles can do certain things to try to screw with Daniels or maybe play it a bit more conservative and force them to drain some clock, but not get in the end zone. There's the whole chess match there. But really run the ball, stay disciplined in your rush lanes when getting after Daniels. I think those are really the 2 keys. Obviously protect the football, don't commit penalties, the standard cliche stuff. But I think those are the 2 things that really are atop my cork board right now.
Yeah, Washington's allowing 4.8 yards per carry this season. The only teams worse are New Orleans and Carolina, who allow 4.9 and 5.2. And to your point, we've talked about how Jaden Daniels is not the same quarterback that he was in week 1. Well, Bucky Irving's not really the same running back, right? I mean, Rashad touched the ball over 20 times in week one. Bucky only had 9 carries and was the team's second, or the game's second leading rusher. So they haven't really seen the full force of the Bucky Irving offense that the Bucs have had over the course of really the second half of the season. So it's definitely going to be an interesting one. I'm looking forward to the live crossover with David Harrison that we're going to do Wednesday night there on YouTube. Oh,
I like David. I can't
nothing
even
but love
him.
for David.
I can't even boo him.
Yeah, but yeah, it'll be disappointing that it's going to be his final crossover of the season. At least that's what I'm assuming you're predicting, because it's crystal ball time. That's coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs. It's playoff time, and if you're like me, you want to make the most of these final weeks of football action. That's where Prize Picks comes in. If you love football and want a chance to win real money while watching the games, Prize Picks is the place for you. It's the best way to turn your sports opinions into cash with daily fantasy player projections. With Prize Picks, you simply pick more or less on player stats like total passing yards or rushing touchdowns, and for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your money. You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds, and whether you're looking for a flex play to boost your payout or want to cash out quickly, Prize Picks has you covered. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, it's clear that people are loving this platform. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL, all lowercase, all one word, to get $50 instantly after your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't need to win to get the bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about that you were paying for twice? That's definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, spending habits, even goals that you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Wrapping things up here on a WTSP Wednesday edition of the Locked On Bucs podcast. James Yarcho, Evan Klosky of 10 Tampa Bay and 10tampabay.com. And I hope this isn't the last time you're pulling the crystal ball out this season, but we're going to find out what you think of how things are going to go on Sunday night. And just a reminder, yes, the Buccaneers may be 0-6 in primetime in the Baker Mayfield era, but that's in the regular season. In the postseason, they're undefeated in primetime in the Baker Mayfield era. So, we do have that to look forward to.
1-0.
What's it say in the loss column, Evan? That's a 0. That's undefeated. I'm just saying.
You're not wrong.
Exactly. It doesn't matter if it's 1 or 100. Undefeated is undefeated. All right. You taking a look at this game. We've talked about it. You know what you have here. You have a very, very talented Washington team coming to town, performing much better than a lot of people anticipated. Dan Quinn is obviously familiar with the Buccaneers. He's familiar with all that, but this is it. It's win or go home. It's officially that time. So when you take a look at this game, Evan, who is your predictive, or no, let's start with your bold prediction. What is your bold prediction for this game?
I keep going back and forth on what I want to do here for the bold. Are 5 sacks, is that bold enough?
5 sacks? I would say so.
Okay. Buccaneers will get 5 sacks.
I'll tell you.
So that's my official pick. The other one I was going with was Jaden Daniels throwing for less than 200 yards. But I'm going to go with the sacks.
All right. Call your shot now. Shaq Barrett getting one of the sacks.
Oh man, that would be quite a moment. I don't think so, but it'd be quite a moment.
All right, fair enough. Who is your predictive player in this game?
Predictive player is going to be Bucky Irving. It's playoff
Back-to-back
time.
Bucky weeks.
Yeah, wasn't his best performance last week. Tip of the cap to the Saints for really having one of the better efforts against Bucky I think that I've seen this season. But no holding back now. You are riding this guy. I am riding Bucky Irving all game long. And it's a plus matchup for him. So I got to go back to the well. And I got to say that Bucky is going to produce.
All right. Are they going to do it, Evan? What's your score prediction?
Score prediction. And I'll do a quick little. Let me say the score first, actually. Buccaneers 28, Commanders 25. I got the Buccaneers winning this game. Here's my thing about the Commanders. And the thing that scares me is that they've won a lot of games where they look dead in the water and then they pull it out. So that scares me because the Buccaneers have been on the wrong end where it looks like they could have won the game outside of maybe in Carolina, where they could have won the game and then messed it up. But, the Commanders are a 12-win team. And I think 4 or 5 of them were think about the Hail Mary against the Bears. Think about the Falcons game where, if Raheem Morris manages to clock better, they lose that one. Even last week against Dallas, I don't really care for that game, but that was also a sneaky win. They also had the crazy game against the Eagles where they turned the ball over 5 times and somehow won it in the last seconds. So they got the alligator blood, but they are not like the 12 wins does not necessarily tell me about this team. Also, per Sagarin, the easiest schedule in 2024 goes to the Washington Commanders. They're also a team that overachieved this season, considering it's the best season Washington's had since, 91? So this was a team, Dan Quinn's first year. They didn't expect this type of success. They are a group, I don't want to say anyone's, kind of fat and sassy going into a playoff game, but a road game for a rookie, for a team that is kind of new to this. Look, Bobby Wagner's been there and done that. There are players on this team that have played in playoff games before, but overall, the organization has not. And I understand that going to Tampa isn't like going into Buffalo, but it's not a fun space to be. They're on a huge winning streak. It just smells like a pretty good spot for the Buccaneers, especially for a team that I think you'll see many pundits are probably going to back the Commanders. I think they're going to be a little bit of a public dog. And I always fear public dogs from a betting perspective. So
look at this last game. I mean, everybody predicted the Bucs to win by like 20 points. And
they were a public favorite, not a public dog,
Right, but that's what I'm saying is the Saints were the public dog there, and it got pretty scary there for a minute.
Well, I don't know if people were hammering the Saints last week the way that I think that the public is probably going to hammer the Commanders money line, right? They're going to see that bet, be like, oh man, Commanders 12 wins, Jaden Daniels. Of course I'm picking the Commanders. I just think it's a good spot for the Buccaneers. I've been really bad this year of predicting what the Bucs, like not from a winning perspective, but from a spread. You don't know what you're kind of going to get from the Bucs, which they're kind of a Jekyll and Hyde team. And they're not just a Jekyll and Hyde team week to week. They're a Jekyll and Hyde team like quarter to quarter. So that's always confusing. But I'm gonna ride the Buccaneers here. I think that they're gonna win, and I might be a bit conservative with the score, of saying that the spread is a push. I can see the Bucs winning this thing by 10. So I think it's a really good spot, and there's a lot of pressure on Jaden Daniels to really orchestrate the whole thing. And typically these rookies, as talented as they are, they need a learning lesson early in their careers, especially in the playoffs. It just ticks up. It's different. It is different. And we'll see what he's got. Certainly, Jaden Daniels is a special talent, and I'm not counting him out. And he certainly can go into Tampa and win that game, no doubt. But I'm looking at this. The more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm researching. I like the Bucs.
All right, and real quick, because it is now Wednesday, and this will be the first time that this is mentioned on this show ahead of this matchup. Who gets the better of the matchup, Mike Evans or Marshawn Lattimore?
Let's see what the injury situation is. But typically Marshawn is that dude against Mike.
He is, but does he have that same juice now that he's not with the Saints?
That's a great question. I'm just not 100% sure. And typically are they going to put Marshawn on an island? I don't think so. I don't. If they do, Baker is going to just chuck balls at Mike. It's just, I don't foresee that. And what we've seen now is Jalen McMillan is a legit threat opposite of Mike, and that's helping. And if you need more evidence of that, go to the 4th and 8 play where 3 Saints players are staring at Mike and leaving Jalen for a one-on-one go ball, kind of a corner route, but leaving Jalen one-on-one. And he's winning. And it's been 5 weeks now. It's like it's not a fluke thingy anymore. He's coming into his own. So let's get to Friday. Let's see the injury reports. Let's see how he looks in practice. For Marshawn, that is. I just don't know. That's a key thing we need to figure out. It's also a key thing to figure out if Jamel's going to play. I think Jamel in and out is a big problem. If he's out, it's a big problem. If he's in, that's big. So we'll see.
All right. Well, Evan, what do we have going on over at 10 Tampa Bay and 10tampabay.com outside of the Lightning just losing every single game that they play now?
Yeah, it's a cold sneak. It's a cold stretch, just like it's cold weather right now in Tampa. But we got the Blitz, right? Every Sunday morning, 8:30 on 10 Tampa Bay. If you want to watch it a little bit earlier, it will be up Saturday on 10 Tampa Bay on our YouTube page, 10 Tampa Bay, and also our 10 Tampa Bay Plus app. So we'll break down the Commanders matchup. We'll go through all the nitty-gritty for you, get you prepared for this playoff game, as we will do this until the very end. We will continue to do these shows, and you'll get a +1 out of us. We will do a season-ending episode. So if they lose against the Commanders, we will tie a bow on it and discuss what the future holds, hoping and praying that Liam Cohen is back next season.
Already the favorite to land the Jaguars job, and it's not okay. All right, that is going to do it for this episode of Locked On Bucs. Please check out everything that Evan is doing over at 10 Tampa Bay and 10tampabay.com. Follow on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarcho_Bucs, at eCloskey WTSP. Make sure you are subscribed on YouTube with the notifications turned on, as well as your favorite podcast platform, and become a Locked On Bucs insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding day. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. Want to thank you so much for joining us right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.